Well, hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I think we are live. I'm just going to double check here as always. And if you can see and hear me okay, just let me know and that you are here and you're listening. And I'm so glad you're here for tonight's live training, which is Unlocking the Secrets to Consistent Liberty Progress. Before we dive in, though, I really want to set the stage by sharing something I see so often in Liberty training. Most people think that major breakthroughs require massive changes, long hours, or expensive tools. But really, here's the truth. Small steps lead to big breakthroughs. So I want you to repeat that and think about that. Small steps lead to big breakthroughs. It's really just the little adjustments like refining your communication, clarifying your expectations, mastering your subtle body language. They all make a really big difference. And these are the things that take a training session from frustrating to transformational, something that really moves your Liberty training and it advances it, or any kind of training for that matter. And, think about this. Have you ever had a moment with your horse where just a small shift, maybe in how you asked for something or the energy that you brought to it, it created a completely different result than what you were wanting? Type yes in the chat if you'd ever had that, if you've ever experienced that. And I'm sorry, my dog's moving here. She gets down here by my feet, and I'm wearing a blanket. It's cold. It's cold throughout the United States right now. I don't care where you are in this country, in the United States. It is cold. It may be warm in some other countries. If you're listening from another country, let me know. Let me know what in the chat. I'm just kind of curious. Let me know in the chat what what are the temperatures where you're at right now, because I know many of us are gearing up for some brutally cold temperatures. So I'm just kind of curious about that. But anyway, and so going back, small shifts, talking about small shifts and how, you know, maybe you received a different result than what you had asked for because of a energy shift, or maybe you asked a different way. Type yes in the comments if that's ever happened to you. I'd really like to hear your stories. Give me your story in the comments, because it's those moments that show us Liberty training isn't, it's not about perfection. It's about progress and building trust one step at a time. And that's really what we're doing here tonight, is one step at a time, really just kind of helping, giving you some more tools in your toolbox to help. And tonight I'm going to show you how to make those small, meaningful shifts that can fast track your progress by as much as 50% in your training. So, but before we get into the mistakes that hold so many trainers, horse owners, whatever you call yourselves, that hold so many of you back, I want to ask you this. What's one thing you'd love to improve in your Liberty training right now, or just in your training with your horse right now? Maybe you're not yet Liberty training. Maybe Liberty training is something that you're hoping to do throughout the process, but what's one thing you'd like to improve with your training? Drop it in the comments so I can tailor tonight's insights to help you the most. So, and while we do that, I am just going to quickly get a tag here for people to let them know we are live in the group with Liberty training, with a live, should I say, with a live, we are live in the group with a free training. How about that? There you go. Just making sure everybody knows we are live so they can tune in, chime in, get some stuff. And I'm looking at some of the comments. We've got Carrie and Kristen both here. Deanna, smoother transitions for task to task. Carrie, timing with cues. Timing is so important. Timing, I mean, it's all very smooth transitions. Focus better on small successes and tries. That's Kristen, saying that. And that's all of that. All of that is very, very important. So, I think, again, those are the small adjustments that we have to make that are going to make huge differences, big strides in our training. You will see big differences when you start to do some of these things. But so let me tee this up for you just a minute, for those of you who are new to following me, new to following my group, so that I can share a little bit about why this topic is so close to my heart. And so I perform Liberty nationally in front of large audiences with my horses. I also compete with the International Liberty Horse Association. Two very separate things. Sometimes I'm performing, sometimes I'm competing. There's a difference. But most importantly, though, because none of that really matters, that just gives me purpose. It just gives me goals. That gives me a reason to go out there every single day. That's what it's about. So most importantly, I have horses that enjoy being with me and spending time with me every single day. And I've been saying that for years because I've always set goals. And because of the goals that I've set and the things that I do, it gives me a reason and a purpose to actually go out there and be with my horses and actually have a plan for why I'm doing what I'm doing. And not just have this ultimate goal. Well, an ultimate goal of having trust and having them to want to be with me is important. I have other goals that lead to that goal, so that are more measurable, so I know that I'm making some strides. So but it wasn't always like that for me. I wasn't always performing on national stages or competing in Liberty with confidence. And I definitely, I've had my falls, literally fallen in the arena in front of large audiences. But in fact, when I got my first horse in 2014, I had no idea, what I was doing. I had some very limited experience with horses when I was younger, but I really didn't know what I was doing. And my husband and I brought home our first horses with dreams of bonding with them, but reality hit hard, really hard. My horse, Cisco, bolted back to the barn with me on his back, and I fell off. Well, I kind of bailed because we were heading towards a tree, and I was a little nervous about that. And God forbid I was wearing shorts. Yes, that was my first horse. I do not ride wearing shorts. No, some of you probably do. Whatever. I like my legs, but my horses are much, much better now because they're trained and they know what they're doing, and I'm trained and I know what I'm doing. But at the time I was wondering, and I was thinking maybe I might be in over my head. I didn't really grow up with horses. While I had some exposure, I didn't really grow up with horses. And honestly, there were moments that I doubted I would ever have the relationship I dreamed of with my horse. I really, oh my gosh, I love Cisco. He's still with me today. He's got bad hocks. I don't use him much, but he's got his, now he's with me for the rest of his life. But I really didn't know what I was doing. And one of those moments that I had sticks with me, and I was trying to teach Cisco how to side pass, and I skipped steps. Quite honestly, I was like, oh, this looks kind of cool. Let me do this. And, I didn't realize, that the side pass was really fairly simple, but it also required some other step-by-step approaches beforehand. But uh, needless to say, I jumped to the side pass. I just wanted something to do with Cisco. I wanted to hang out with him and be with him and do something. But I really didn't have a plan. I really didn't have a step-by-step process. And I really didn't know what I was doing. And I remember asking him, and he wouldn't move. And I felt frustrated, unsure what to do. And I was even scared to push him or to add pressure, thinking that I might ruin the bond that we had and mess all of that up. And or maybe I might be too hard on him because I really didn't understand. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. Think about that for a minute. I think that's something that I see most often is people don't know what they don't know. So go into the comments for me if you would and type afraid if you've ever felt the same way. Like, you're afraid to make a mistake because it could ruin everything. Just, do a little check-in for me. That way I know that you're still out there listening. I can see you guys out there. Uh, you know, s- Make sure that you can hear me okay too. That helps me. But you know, I really get it if you felt that way. I really get it because I've been there and I was there. I'm not there anymore. I understand, but for a while I really stayed stuck. So and I thought if I just tried a little harder or bought better equipment, things would magically get better, and but they didn't. In fact, overall, I spent close to $20,000 on our horses, the tack, and everything else under the sun, and I still felt lost. I was lost. And I even remember one time saying to someone, I don't want to be a trainer. I just want to spend time with my horse. That kills me today. There's a difference between being a trainer for other people's horses and being a trainer in general. But when you have a horse, you are you still have to be a trainer because really in I like to tell people this, essentially you're more than just a trainer. You're just communicating in a way that the horse understands, and you have to learn that. And then you have to learn how to teach the horse to understand what it is you want them to do. And maybe it's not even, maybe trainer isn't even the best word for it, quite honestly. Um, Maybe it's just learning how to speak horse. I don't know. But the turning point, oh, hang on. Kristen says, constantly afraid of doing something wrong to the point where anxiety impacts my time with Waco. Not afraid of him, afraid of doing something wrong that will negatively impact his training. Yeah, I think that is that's very much how I felt, Kristen, when I first started with horses. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't want to didn't want to hurt Cisco. I didn't want to ruin what I had with him. I didn't want to mess things up and make it worse. Sherry always says, I'm always afraid to mess up. Yeah. And that's exactly um, how I felt. Patricia says overthinking all the time. And certainly, I think the day when I was doing side passing with Cisco, that's exactly what I was doing. I was overthinking. And uh, I started to increase the pressure and I felt uncomfortable and nervous about it because I really didn't have somebody there that was guiding me and telling me what was okay and what wasn't okay, what was ethical pressure and what wasn't ethical pressure. And so the turning point really came when I realized I couldn't do it alone. I needed to invest in my own education, not just for my horse's sake, but for mine. Again, people don't know what they don't know. And when I finally decided to learn how horses think, how they communicate, how to teach them step by step, everything changed for me. And I went from feeling stuck and overwhelmed to confident and clear. And that confidence didn't just transform my training, it deepened my relationships with my horses and in ways that I couldn't have ever imagined, right? Today, I just have such an amazing relationship with all of my horses and spend time with them. And now, of course, I compete at Liberty and national level, and I perform in front of large audiences. And the best part is my horses love spending time with me. They catch me instead of me catching them. They meet me at the gate. They're excited to learn, and our bond is stronger than ever. And it all started with that decision to invest in understanding, not just trying harder, not just trying to figure it out. And so that's why I'm here tonight, because I want you to know that if you're struggling, it's not because you're incapable or that your horse isn't a good fit. It's often because no one's really shown you the way. No one's shown you how to communicate, how to set clear expectations, and how to guide your horse to success, right? Nobody's really showed you, or maybe you've seen it, but you don't have somebody giving you that feedback to tell you. Now, I just want to throw this out there today. I had a beautiful group coaching session with the people that are in my program today, and we actually reviewed video by a couple of the members, and that feedback I think was so powerful for everybody there, whether it was their video or not, because I think that we have blind spots that people that we don't always see our blind spots without having it pointed out in that video. In fact, think about football players. And I know this is true for whether you're high school football on up to the pros. They review video all the time. And somebody points out the blind spots like, hey, dude, you weren't there in the right spot. You were supposed to be here. And and that's the same thing as today's. I was helping my students to guide them and give them that direction. So tonight, I'm pulling back the curtain on the three most common mistakes that really hold people back in their Liberty training. And I'll show you how small intentional changes can make massive differences, and why clarity and confidence, that comes from having a step-by-step plan with your horse, knowing the communication with your horse. But before we dive in, as always, I want to hear from you. What's the biggest challenge you're facing with your horse right now? If you go into the comments, go into the chat right now, and let's tackle this together. Give me an idea. What is the biggest challenge that you and your horse are facing right now? That will help me. And that helps me to structure future trainings. So I'm just going to take a quick drink of water. The air is really dry here in Wisconsin right now. And even though we have a little bit warmer weather right now, the next couple of days after tomorrow will not be so warm. Okay. See, Julie says, I feel horses are always very forgiving if we don't do things with meanness or malice. That is very true. Uh, we, we all make a million mistakes, as she says. It's just part of the journey. I try to work with all of my horses in love and patience in my heart and hands. Very, very true. This morning's group was great. Yes, Julie's in my program. This morning, yeah, I think this morning's group session was phenomenal because I think it's just an eye opener and awareness. So Anne says focus and awareness. I think that's where the word awareness kind of clicked into me right here. And Sherry says getting my horse to stay in a circle around me. Yes, I have a step-by-step program for that, Sherry, because there's a lot of pieces involved with that. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, my horse circles me on the lunge line, but then as soon as I take the halter and lead rope off, they're gone. Right. So lunging is different. And I'm not saying that that's what you're doing, but lunging is different than Liberty circles. So, there's a series of steps that help to create that draw. and then to be able to send our horses away and draw them back to us. So big step by step on that. All right, let's get started with mistake number one and why it might be the reason your horse seems unsure of your intentions, right? So, and that is unclear communication. Many of you have heard me say this before. I'm going to say it again and again and again and again, but this one is big because horses are masters at reading subtle cues. They're wired to pick up on the smallest shifts in your body language, tone, intention. But here's the catch. If we're inconsistent, unclear, or sending mixed signals, it creates confusion for the horse. And that confusion often leads to frustration for both them and us. So think of it like this. Imagine you're learning a new dance and your partner keeps giving you different signals for what you're trying to do. And one moment they're leading you to the left, the next they're leading you to the right. My husband and I can't dance because I have to lead. I'm just gonna say I have to lead because otherwise he confuses me where we're going. But would you, I mean, if 1 minute, somebody's telling you have to go to the left, but then the next minute they're telling you to go to the right, and you don't know if there's a pattern involved with this, would you feel confident in what they're supposed to do? No. So Kristen's laughing. Of course not. That's why I have to lead my husband. So if you see us dance, I have to. Oh, many of you did see us dance. I actually forgot about this. In Kentucky this year at the International Liberty Horse Association Liberty Fest Invitational Freestyle, the first 45 seconds of my program, my husband and I did a little swing dance. And you'll see, so if you go back, you can find that. You can find it on my Facebook page. If you don't follow me, make sure you follow me. Or you know what? Put it in the comments if you want me to send you a link to my freestyle. So just say link freestyle. That'll tell me that that's what it is. Because otherwise, sometimes I tell you to put these words in, and I'm like, what was that for again? So put in link freestyle, and I will send you a link to that freestyle, and you can watch my husband and I dance. I can tell you when we first learned that, which was in our kitchen, eventually it was in our patio, and then eventually we did it out in the arena. I was leading. Now, eventually he did do some of the leading, and I was a little nervous. So he helped to remind me about what we needed to do because but Tricia says, I probably have it on my phone. Perfect. Hey, you might have another version of it. Send it to me. Yeah, I will. Okay, I see a couple of people asking for it. I will send you that link when we're done here and get that for you. But anyway, back to focusing. Obviously I didn't feel confident in my husband's ability to dance with me. And so I took over that leadership, and you probably would feel hesitant, frustrated, or even give up if somebody's, confusing you right like that. So, uh, that's exactly how your horse feels in the communication that you're sending when it's unclear. And so, sorry if you can hear my dog. She's she's in a deep sleep. I think she's chasing a rabbit right now and making some noises. She's at my feet. If only you guys could see her right now. Anyway, uh, here's a simple example from my own journey. I just wanted to bring this up. When I first started Liberty training, I thought my horse would just know automatically what I wanted if I asked enough times. Spoiler alert, she didn't. Met her at Dalton. Magica and Dalton were kind of my first. I mean, I did do some training horses a little bit, play with them. But I really didn't know what I didn't know until Magica and Dalton. And I think then it just kind of went uphill from there. So sometimes it felt really literally uphill. But, you know, I was using inconsistent cues, sometimes pointing, sometimes stepping forward, sometimes clucking, because I was trying different things and I really didn't know what I needed to do. I didn't have that step-by-step approach. And And so I was expecting my horses to magically just kind of piece it together. And really honestly, I remember thinking, oh, well, Magica can lunge around me. So if I just take that halter and lead rope off, she'll just know what to do, right? She'll just lunge around me and stay. And no, that's not exactly how it went. And the result with all of that were, confused horses, and I was frustrated. Oh my goodness, was I frustrated. Many, many times frustrated. And what I realized was that clarity and consistency are non-negotiable, right? Every cue, every step, every bit of pressure you apply, it needs to mean something specific. So if your horse doesn't know what's being asked, it's our job to pause, reset, and communicate that in a way that the horse understands. We need to communicate it clearly. We need to show the horse what it is we want. So how do you fix this? It's really, it boils down to 3 steps. Define your cues. So be intentional about each cue and what it means. For example, if you want your horse to move forward, decide exactly what signal you're going to use, and whether it's pointing, clucking, stepping towards them, uh, stick to it, because the consistency is going to build confidence, right? Consistency builds confidence in your horse. It's going to build confidence in you. Okay. Break it down. Instead of asking for the full behavior right away, break it into smaller steps, right? Smaller approximations. If you're teaching a side pass, start by asking for a single step, reward that, and gradually build it from there. And this makes it easier for your horse to understand and to succeed in what you want. And this isn't just liberty training. This is horsemanship. It really is. Pay attention to timing. Horses learn through the release of pressure. They also learn through the addition of a positive reinforcer. Okay. But your timing has to be impeccable. Everything is through immediacy. The moment your horse offers even a tiny step in the right direction, you need to instantly release the pressure and reward them, because this helps them connect the dots between their action and your cue. And it works just the opposite way. If you release pressure when your horse has given you undesirable behavior, you've just rewarded that undesirable behavior and communicated to your horse that that's what you want. So it's important both ways. You have to be clear, you have to be consistent, and you have to make sure that you're not rewarding undesirable behavior. So let's go ahead and make this actionable here, okay? Think about your last training session, and was there a moment when your horse seemed confused, resistant? Drop it in the chat for just a minute for me quick. I'm curious. Was there a moment where your horse seemed confused and resistant? And I know for a fact there's a couple of people in my program today that probably had some of that, that had that wake up call. And just remember though, and I think this goes back to what Julie said too, is your horse isn't trying to be difficult, right? They're trying to figure out what it is you're asking. And when we become clearer in our communication, we eliminate so much. My dog again, sorry. We eliminate so much of that frustration. And that's the first step to building the partnership we've been dreaming of with our horses. So go into the comments. I don't see anybody commenting, and I know there's at least a couple people out there that are in my program that had that today. Oh yeah, okay. So Carrie says, yep, trying the half moon, and she gave me hind end yield. Yeah. Patricia, more times than not. And Kristen, yep, you saw it on the video. I sure did. So thanks, Kristen. So let's move on to number 2, unrealistic expectations. This is one of the biggest traps that Liberty trainers fall into, and it's often the root cause of frustration and setbacks. When you picture Liberty training, you probably imagine things like your horse is cantering beside you at Liberty, standing on a pedestal, circling you with this perfect focus. And those moments are absolutely possible. I know this because I do this. But here's where the mistake happens. You focus on the final goal instead of the journey to get there. And I want you just to think about that for a minute. And that goes back to breaking this down into smaller approximations. It's the journey to get there. It's the time spent eliminating frustrations. I've been there myself. Early on, I'd see trainers performing amazing Liberty routines, and I thought, that's what I want, right? So I'd set up my training sessions and expecting my horses to deliver polished behaviors when they barely even understood the basics of the maneuver. And I had to go back. So if I would have done it right the first time, I probably would have saved time, but I didn't. So, the gap between where your horse is now and where you want them to be can really feel like the Grand Canyon. And if your expectations are, out of alignment with, what your current ability or knowledge is, you're really setting yourself up for frustration, and you're setting your horse up for confusion and failure. So why does this happen? Why does it happen? It's because we all want results. We are predators, and as a predator, we like to go from point A to point B without stopping at point C, right? We're just going to go from here to here to here to here to here, and we are on a mission. And the problem is that Liberty training isn't really a straight shot. It's a series of building blocks. Skipping steps or expecting too much too soon can lead to a lot of misunderstandings and resistance, or even a loss of trust between you and your horse, because your horse doesn't have the confidence in you because there's no clarity in that communication, right? And horses thrive when they know exactly what's being asked and feel successful with the small wins. And I want you to think about that. Horses thrive when they know what's being asked because they like routines. They like things that are the same because they want to know what to expect because they're a prey animal. And that's, you know, and horses know what you're going to do before you even do it sometimes. Or at least, if you're doing it consistently. If you're not doing it consistently, then they don't know, and then they get a little confused. It's when you throw them from, a little curveball. That's when the problems start. But when I first started Liberty training with Magica, I envisioned her circling me with ease, but instead of this graceful arc, I got a little resistance, sometimes a full-blown tantrum, and the problem really wasn't Magica, it was my expectations. And so and originally when I started doing Liberty with her beyond tricks, it was to give her something to do to as I worked with her under saddle. I wanted to have some groundwork that I did before saddling work, and so I did. But one thing led to another, and I started looking at ILHA patterns, and we just kind of dove in. But I, because of that, because of the problems that we were having, I went back to the basics, and I ended up focusing on rewarding the small wins. Just as I realized that Liberty training wasn't any different than any horsemanship. It just focus on the small wins, taking small steps in the right direction. And I stopped comparing where we were to the end goal, and that was big because I focused on the journey. And within weeks I noticed a huge difference. She wasn't just responding better, but she was more engaged and more confident in the things that we were doing. So, you know, really, when you shift your focus to the process instead of the outcome, both you and your horse can really enjoy that ride, and the results are going to come. It's going to follow. Remember, again, your horse isn't resistant. They're just looking for clarity and structure. And when you focus on more manageable expectations, you'll be amazed at how quickly they start to respond to the things that you're asking. And it's all about making the process easy for them to follow. So let's talk about mistake number 3. And that is how your body language, and specifically a lack of confidence in your posture, can make your horse question your leadership. And I've seen this. I've seen this many, many times. And that's why having someone point out your blind spots really helps, because we don't tend to be able to see it ourselves. But horses are incredibly intuitive. They pick up on every shift in your posture, every movement you make, or even every movement you don't make. So if your body language is hesitant, unbalanced, if you're unsure, your horse will sense it immediately. And when your horse senses doubt or inconsistency, it can lead to confusion, mistrust, or even a lack of respect. So, one of the most common ways that this shows up is how you stand and move around your horse. Are your movements hesitant? Are you shifting your feet too much when asking your horse to respond? These are subtle signals that might not seem like a big deal, but to your horse, they're loud and clear. And I see this on a regular basis. So when your body language lacks confidence, it tells your horse that you're uncertain about your role as a leader. And if you're unsure, why should your horse trust you or follow your guidance? Because horses still want that leadership. I can tell you, Mott is a leader. When she's out in the pasture, she's in charge, but she likes it for that time she's with me. She knows that I am going to keep her safe. She knows she does not have to watch out for anything. She can rely on me to keep her safe. So how do you fix this? First and foremost, I'm going to tell you, own your space. Think of your posture as the foundation of your leadership, and if you appear strong and grounded, your horse will naturally feel more secure. But own your space. If your horse steps into your space and you don't ask your horse into your space, back your horse up. Back them up. Number 2, move with intention. And what do I mean by that? Every time you move your feet, your horse is paying attention. And every step you make should have purpose. If you have excessive movement, it's more like your horse is training you versus you training your horse. So you want to avoid excessively moving your feet, like, shifting your feet too often, when you're doing certain exercises. It's just, you don't want your horse training you. Horses are they're hardwired to get you or other horses to move their feet. I mean, that's just that's what's in their nature. And once you establish that they are the ones that are going to be moving their feet, and when you move your feet, it's because it's a cue. It's because your footfalls are specifically communicating to your horse something very deliberate and specific. Then that's different. That's leadership. So you want to move your feet deliberately. Practice standing in a circle. Or I've told people a bucket, but a bucket could be kind of dangerous if your horse walks through. through you, okay? So maybe take a bucket lid and stand on that and see how well you can move your horse around you without you moving your feet. I can tell you it's going to be a challenge for some of you guys. Some of you guys are going to have a hard time having your horse lunge around you, having your horse back up, having your horse laterally move away from you, whether it's a leg yield or a side pass or, some of those things. So test it. If if you don't know, test it. So number 3, practice your leadership through body language. So when you're asking for a response, use your energy and presence as much as your cues that you're giving. You have energy. So a strong stance, shoulders up, chest out, it communicates confidence. And I mean, you can't go out there and be a couch potato. And when you're confident, your horse is going to be more willing to trust and cooperate with you. So the key takeaway here is your body language. It's your horse's guide. And when you show up as, a confident, grounded leader, your horse will feel safe and secure following your lead. Those are big pieces to it. So if this resonates with you tonight and if you're ready to stop struggling and start creating the partnership you've always wanted, stick around here, right? Because everything I'm sharing with you today is designed to help take you to the next level in your training, help take you to that next step. And you don't have to have it all figured out right now, but you do have to start somewhere, right? And the good news is you don't have to do it alone. I'm here to help. And you're really closer than you think to achieving the connection and confidence that you're looking for. It's really not as long as you might think it's going to take. So, I want to leave you with this. Creating the kind of partnership that you dream of with your horse isn't about luck or natural talent. Okay? It's not about either one of those. It's about understanding. It's about education, having the education, getting educated. And the mistakes that we talked about today, whether it's unclear communication, unrealistic expectations, or even the subtle ways that you move your body and how it affects your horse, those are all common. They're not just you and you making the mistakes. These are common, but they don't have to define your journey. And what makes the difference, with all of that is knowing how to address them, how, having a proven framework to follow can help you. And here's the truth. Trying to figure it out on your own can lead to years of frustration, wasted time, and even setbacks with your horse. And none of us want to have setbacks with our horse. So when I first started, I thought I could piece things together and watch videos and do some trial and error. And sure, it worked for me, but let me tell you, the transformation, it didn't happen until I invested in my own learning. And that's really when everything changed for me. And not really just for me, but for my horses too. They started trusting me more because I showed up as a confident, consistent leader who understood what they needed. And so if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed or you're not making the progress you want, I really want to encourage you to take the next step in your own education and invest in yourself. It's investing in yourself isn't it's not just about learning new techniques. It's way more than that. It's about unlocking the confidence, the clarity, the communication that you need to truly connect with your horse. It goes beyond techniques. So, you've already taken a huge step. right? Just being here today, listening, opening your mind to new ideas. And that shows me you're committed to your horse and to building the kind of relationship that you both deserve to have. So, if you're ready to go further, and if you're ready to stop guessing and start creating real progress, I'd love to help you. Whether it's through the resources I've created, my programs, or this community, you don't have to do it alone. We're here for you. The partnership you've always wanted with your horse is it's entirely possible, and but it starts with a decision to invest in yourself and in your journey. That's time, that's money. There's an investment. That's what it is. So give me a thumbs up in here. If you go in the comments, give me a thumbs up if you'd like me to reach out to you and schedule a time to chat about what it looks like working with me, right? And, I'll review your goals. We'll review them together and see if I can help you. And I'm pretty sure I can. But if not, there's no hard feelings in that. I'll send you a few free trainings, get you some clear action steps that you can, move forward in your journey right away. But go in the comments, give me a thumbs up in the comments if you'd like me to reach out. I'm so excited to see what you and your horse can achieve together. And now go out there, apply what you've learned tonight, and let's keep moving forward together. I'll see you guys next week.